I have a confession to make. I am the quilt police. Well, sort of, kind of, a little bit. There are things that I believe wholeheartedly in and definitely would be something I would say to somebody if I saw them do it. I wanted to do this video because the quilt police are getting a little bit of a bad rap. There's some things that I just think are best practices. You can agree with me or not. In fact, I know there's a couple here you're not going to agree with me on, but I am going to explain why I do the things I do and why they are the mountains I will die on as a quilter. And hopefully, especially if you're a new quilter, hopefully this will help you. Now, there are some rules that really don't matter. For example, opening your seams. Now, I don't do this. I have reasons why I don't do it, but I also understand that it probably isn't that big of a deal. Another example is hand binding versus machine binding. That's a total preference. There's a million ways to make a quilt. Tying versus quilting, have at it. Do whatever you want with that. That doesn't matter. There are many things out there that just don't matter in quilting, but there are some things that do matter. Let's talk about those. Before I get into it, my name is Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance. Thank you so much for joining me today. And let's talk about it. I'm a little nervous. I'm afraid I'm gonna get attacked, but hopefully I won't. And hopefully you'll agree with a lot of these. The first thing is 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, you don't have to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Totally up to you for most quilts. As long as you're consistent, you're gonna be fine. For example, this quilt, I'll show you, I have it ready to be quilted. I just basted it. Pin basted. Another thing people will argue about. There's many different ways to baste and you can do it however you want. This quilt, it's not gonna matter. They're squares. You can use a 1/4 inch, scant 1/4 inch. You could use 5/8, whatever. It might not be the same size, but as long as you're consistent, you're golden. Now, I wouldn't go too small. I wouldn't go beyond a scant 1/4 inch. I wouldn't, because your seams might pull apart. But overall, you're going to be fine. Just be consistent. You're going to be fine. This quilt, however, which I don't really want to unroll, so I'll put a picture of it up here. You got to have a good 1/4 inch seam allowance because things aren't going to line up if you don't. And there are many examples of this. So is it important? Sometimes, not always. I would recommend if you're learning to quilt and are new to quilting, practice that 1/4 inch seam allowance. You'll get good at it. I promise you'll get good at it. Okay, for this one, I'm at the machine. Kind of a weird angle, but that's okay. We'll live with that because I'll still get my point across. This one is something that I see all the time in classes, and it is something that I say something about when I see it because it can ruin your machine, and I think it's super important. I think it's something a lot of people don't know about, and that is not to pull the thread up from here. So if you're changing the color of thread, I've seen it all too often that first of all, people don't put their presser foot up. Put your presser foot up, okay? And then I see them grab this thread and yank it out, or even cut it and yank it out, or grab the spool and yank the whole thing out. This is really bad practice because it brings dust into your tension discs. It also will mess up your tension discs. It'll just mess up your machine. So, wait, the right way, if you want to call it that, and I know, you cut it up here, lift your presser foot, and you pull it out this way when you're rethreading. So you pull it out from down here. Do not yank it out up here. You're going to mess up your machine. If you want to mess up your machine, that's fine. That's totally your prerogative, your tools, your rules, but I also think it's best practice to respect that part. And it's something I don't think many people know. So now you do. The next one's the one I'm probably most nervous about because this is something I see all the time. And if any of my friends are watching, I have a feeling you're going to feel a little called out because I've seen it even with my friends. And I'm even nervous about saying anything, but I'm going to say it because it's super important. Please stop photocopying patterns. I said what I said. It's stealing. I said what I said. You're taking somebody else's intellectual property. If I have a good book that say I just love, and I took that book and I photocopied the entire thing and handed it to somebody, you would think that's wrong. The same is true with the pattern. Now there are a million quilt blocks. I mean, this is 5,500 quilt blocks. Here's 1,000 quilt blocks. Here's a huge book that's, the Encyclopedia of Pieced Quilt Patterns. There are very few, I would even argue none, quilt blocks out there that are new. They've all been used, they've all been made, yeah. I know there's probably a few, but doubtful. Maybe some new techniques, but even those you see with my lessons from an old quilt, they've all been done too. But the written instructions, how the block goes together, all of that is intellectual property. That belongs to the creator. So whenever you photocopy any pattern and give it to someone else, you are taking money out of the designer's pockets, and we want designers. I just started becoming a quilt pattern designer not too long ago. A pattern takes at least 40 hours of work. It is intense to make patterns and to have the skill to do it. You want them out there, okay? So make sure you're supporting our quilting industry by making sure that you're not photocopying patterns. I hear it all the time. I'll be at a quilt shop and they'll be like, oh, I'll buy the pattern and I'll photocopy it for you. That's stealing. It's stealing. The only exception is when you photocopy it for yourself, which I have done because I want to put notes on it and I want to keep the original copy clean. But I also shred that photocopied copy when I'm done. Because if it's for my personal use, that's one thing. That's not illegal. I said it. It is something we can do. But I also don't want them in my sewing room for anybody to grab and go or whatever either, or after I'm gone to find and think that that is something that I did. Buy the quilt pattern. Usually they're not that expensive, and there's plenty of free ones out there if you're on a budget. There's tons of free ones out there. So just keep that in mind. And the last thing I want to say, as a person who is kind of defending the quilt police a little bit, and I probably have, and I have a list here of probably 20 more that I could talk about. These are the ones I picked. I could probably go on and on. So if you want to see another one of these videos, let me know. I'll see what I can do. We'll see how this is received too. And if you like what you see, like my content, please give me that thumbs up. That helps the algorithm know that you like it and want to see more things like this from me and from other creators. All right, the last one is judgy quilters. How convenient of me to say that I don't like judgy quilters when I'm judging quilters? Well, I'm not really judging you. I'm trying to help you. I really am. I'm trying to make sure that you have the most success that you can as a quilter. But I digress a little bit. There's nothing I hate more when people say, why'd you do it that way? Or that's not the right way to do it. Or boy, that's crooked. Oh, look, your points aren't on. That's the stuff, you're learning. And you know what? That might not matter to you. It doesn't matter to me. People tend to judge. And I think part of it is because we're in a craft that's dominated mostly by women. And it's also not seen in society as valuable. It takes a lot of skill to be a quilter. It takes a lot of trial and error. It takes a lot of know-how. We are skilled. And judging other quilters is no good. Giving them advice on how things should be, maybe making their life easier, I'm all for it. Do it gently, nicely, and be kind to our fellow quilters. Everybody's learning, everybody's on their own journey, everybody has their own way of doing things, and that's okay, that's good, that's what we want. We want that variety in our lives and in this wonderful community of quilters. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you take some time to sew, and I will see you real soon. Bye.